Hello, it's Claire again from Sewing by Claire, and I thought that I would drop on to a quick video to explain how making Luna Lapin clothes can actually start you on your journey towards making clothes for children or for yourself. And I thought it would be quite useful because I'm not sure that everybody will realise that a lot of the pattern making symbols and the layout of the patterns and in fact the construction methods are actually very, very similar to what you would need if you wanted to make clothes for yourself or for for your children, sorry. They're very similar, and I've made both, so I do know that it can work and work well. So I thought I'd just do a quick video just to explain some of the symbols that people might not be so familiar with, especially if you're a beginner to making clothes from patterns. So I need to make some pyjamas for Alfie, which is I'm going to give as a gift to a new baby that's arrived in our family. And I just thought if I started off at the process and made a quick video, then it might be useful for somebody. So here's going. Hopefully that's going to be the case anyway. So I've just taken delivery of this book. I actually started my journey with Luna on the second book, which is Luna and Friends, and I bought this book because I particularly wanted the pattern for the pyjamas. So in here I've had a look through the book and it's fabulous. There's some lovely clothes. I can see lots of things that I'm going to want to make, and hopefully as I make some of the other clothes I'm going to do more videos, so it'll start to build together as a bit of a skill set for you, hopefully. So when you get your book, obviously then you'll look through and you'll see the different patterns. Now I'm going to just talk about the patterns for the PJs at the moment because that applies to the patterns for Luna and to some of the other animals as well. And I'll just show you just take a random page and just show you some of the marks so that you can actually understand some of the patterns, and I'm hoping it will just help. So let's have a look here at what we've got. We'll start with the pyjamas because that's what I want to make, so hopefully that's okay with you. So first of all, we've got pyjama bottoms here. So we've got one piece here of pyjama bottoms, and this is all going to look like a bit of a jigsaw piece for you until you start to get going. So we've got a piece here, another piece here, we've got a piece on the top here, and this piece here says join here, and this is actually the piece that fits on the bottom of the legs of the piece just here. So I'll show you more of that as we start to do some more of the pictures. But if you have a look, we've got a dotted line. So the dotted line is actually a stitching line. So that's showing you, if you measured from the solid line to the dotting line, that would show you what seam allowance you've got when you're matching that up on your machine. And the seam allowance line, if you use that line, it will then give you the correct size garment for your animal that you're making it for, Luna or Alfie or whomever. If you use slightly less of a seam allowance, so say your seam allowance would have came in around here, and so you were losing less, your garment would turn out bigger. If you then, by contrast, if you take slightly bigger seam allowance, then again your garment would turn out smaller. So a seam allowance, even if you're just different by a couple of millimetres each seam, it makes such a difference, especially when you're working at this miniature level. So always make a note of the difference between the solid line, which is where you would cut out your fabric, either there or on the side here or wherever is easiest to see, and your dotted line, because your dotted line is actually your stitching line, and we can actually see that demonstrated here because there's a gap in the stitching line here, and I haven't made these just yet, but I'm presuming that's so Luna or Alfie's little bunny tail can stick out should they wish to. So that then brings us on to another point, and this is these little triangles here, these dark triangles here, and these are called in the business notches, and these notches will then correspond with each other and other places on the pattern. So we know that we're going to have to put a waistband, which is this part here, on top of the waist edge of the PJ bottoms, which is what we're working on at the moment, and we can see that there's corresponding triangles. If you can see those, nearly got myself the face of a pen. Triangles that then are going to match up. Now there's several different ways of marking these on your work. The way I like is I would cut out a single line here across without any notches on the other side, and then I would do a little snip into the centre of my work just by a couple of millimetres on the middle of that triangle towards the point when I've finished cutting out my fabric, and that would then just indicate that there's a mark there. And when you're holding your fabric up, I'll show you when I get to the point of cutting them out, but you'll be able to see that there's a notch there, and you'll be able to match those up really nicely then. The way I was taught at school though, and it might be that you've not done any sewing and since you were taught at school, is that in actual fact I used to have to draw a little triangle on my piece of fabric like this. So I'd snip, 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 snip up and down again, and then carry on. And that works quite well too. So it just depends on what you prefer to do. Now I prefer to do a little snip inside, I think they're more precise. But again, if you want to do the triangle method that you were taught in school, that's perfectly fine as well, so don't worry about that. But you do need those notches because they will help you line everything up, especially on the more complicated garments or on setting in sleeves. So again, that's how we deal with those. We just either cut them out in the fabric, so when we trace this off, we'll just note there's one there, and then on our fabric we'll just do a little triangle on the extra triangle on the fabric and carry on cutting. Or after we've cut, we can just do a little snip down a couple of millimetres into it. Another mark that you'll see quite often is this one here. An arrow on one side, coming down on a straight edge, and then an arrow on the bottom. And that indicates that that seam there needs to be placed on the fold of the fabric. Now it's very obvious whilst it's in the book, and whilst you've not had to before you've cut it out, but if you don't put that mark onto your piece of work, onto your pattern when you trace it off, and you miss that off, then you could quite easily not place that pattern piece on a fold, and you'd mess it all up then completely. You'd have to start again with a new piece of fabric. So it's really important that you get used to copying these little symbols onto your piece of work, so that onto your pattern, sorry, so that you can then use those as your clues to success for when you're actually doing your clothes. And in actual fact, this symbol here is exactly the same for children's wear and for adult wear, for placing a piece of a pattern on a fold, so that you cut it out as the two sides and they're joined together. If for some reason you hadn't got enough fabric to cut it on a fold and you needed to do two separates, you would have to add extra seam allowance on here, on this edge here, because you'd need to sew those two together to make them to be the correct size before you could use them. So again, you've just got to remember to add these marks onto your pattern pieces, because to miss them off would really set you up poorly, really, for having a good finished result. Just have a quick flick through, see if there's any others that I've just noticed that quickly. Oh yeah, this one. Okay, this is another really good one. Okay, so this one here indicates the direction of the fabric. So you need this, your arrows to go top to bottom on your fabric. And where you've got more than one piece, so we've got a piece here and we've got a piece here, look, and because they're different shapes, it would be very easy just to twist one slightly when you're actually placing it on your work, on your fabric for cutting out. So you need to make sure that these are always going north to south, or if you're actually you haven't got room on your fabric that way and you need to do them east to west, then that can be fine. On small things like this it doesn't matter so much, but on children's wear and adult wear you would need to do this top to bottom, so that every single piece is going the same way. Just like if you think about a piece of corduroy fabric, if you brush your hand down one way, then the pile of the fabric will stick up, and if you smooth it the other way, then it feels much smoother. Then this is what will make sure that always goes in the same direction. So these always are very, very straight, and they are best covered by ruler. And what I actually do with mine is I actually extend that up into the pattern just on the straight line it's on and make it longer, because then when you've got a longer line you can measure from the centre of that line out to the edge of your fabric, top and bottom, and that will make sure that over a greater distance your pattern piece is set straight on your fabric, and again that will give you a much better result. Really important with velvet and with other brushed kind of products like cord as well, just to make sure that they're right. Let's have a look and see what else we've got here. We've got dots as well, look. a little dot like that can often mean that you need to either stop stitching or you need to have some ability to mark that on. And I can show you a way to mark that onto fabric at another time. But just for now, this is just a quick explanation of what these pieces are. So as we can see, we've got a grain line on here and here. We've got notches as well that we need to do, and also the seam line is noted on here as well as to where the stitching line is, and actually that's a greater seam line than down here, as we can see on the raglan sleeve of this pyjama top. So we just need to be aware of these things, because that's going to alter the overall fit of your garment on your child or on your Luna, or whatever it is that you're making. Let me have a little look, see if there's anything else at the moment that sticks up, like this little dot just here. So we'd want to mark, that's on the tweed bag, we'd want to mark that up because that shows where the little button's got to be, or the press stud for closing that up. So again, it takes the guesswork out of things. Sarah Peel, the author, has designed all of this for you, and it seems daft not to use that information, because she wants you to get the best thing possible. Here we can see we've got a double notch as well. Single one on the neckline and double one on the shoulder. And sometimes these can mean, again, 2 notches can mean the back of a garment. So on a sleeve, once it is joined together, you can have the back of a sleeve will have 2 notches. And if we find the front has got no notches on there, but on the neckline here, look, we've only got 1 notch. So again, if you've got your triangle cut into the top here, and double triangle here, or you'd got your little snips in, it'd be easy to differentiate, and it just gives you clues as to where your pattern pieces are, and how they fit together quite nicely. Here we've got marks for buttonholes and for buttons, so the cross is for the button and the slit is for the buttonhole. So again, they can be marked onto your tracing for you and then transposed across onto the pattern, which also will help for you. Trying to think if there's anything else. I think that's about it for now. That certainly will give you a bit of a clue, but if you can get yourself familiar with these different symbols on the pattern, it really will help you when you come to start and do your first children's garment, perhaps, because as I say, the pattern markings on here are directly transposable across to children's and adult wear fabrics. So anyway, I hope that helps. Just a quick little description, and I'll do a quick video as well, hopefully on tracing, and then I'll see what I can do later. I'm staying at my daughter's house. She's expecting my first granddaughter, well, first grandchild actually, next month. So I've come back over from Spain for a few days well, a few weeks actually, to stay with her. So it means I haven't got access to all of my normal recording equipment. So bear with me, and I'll try and do some more as we go on, but hopefully that's helpful for you for now. Any questions, pop them in the comments below. I will be making more Luna videos, so if you do see this one and you'd like to subscribe, then that would be great, because then you'll get to know when any other videos are loaded, and we'll see how we can help you in the future. So let me know, see what you think, and hopefully that was helpful. Okay, see you soon. Happy stitching. Bye.